Yes, they're one of the greatest and best-selling bands of all time. They've been together for almost 40 years.
Metallica, the quintessential thrash metal band. When you bring up the conversation of metal as a whole, Metallica is absolutely the first act that comes to mind for the entire genre. Based out of Los Angeles, California, Metallica was formed in 1981 by singer James Hetfield and drummer Lars Ulrich. And while a couple of members have come and gone through various reasons, their first couple albums have been essential pieces of thrash metal and rock music in general. Gaining traction and credibility with their debut and sophomore albums Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, it was their third album, 1986's Master of Puppets, that became their most iconic. It has since been considered one of, if not the most influential thrash metal album, leading to commercial success to other acts such as Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax, all of whom are the big four of thrash metal. With praise from critics and garnering their first gold record, their fourth album was expected to be a smash.
This is the rock and roll dream.
And Justice for All was released in January 1988, and like the previous three albums, it was critically acclaimed by fans and critics, and it was even more commercially successful. And since it is once again music video time, today's video is focused squarely on the music video that set the groundwork for success. I am talking about their unique first outing that had them buying movie rights for an obscure film that, without it, may have caused Metallica to junk the entire project.
The only vibe we had when we were making the video was that we had an agreement if we didn't like the video when it was done, we would throw it away, and it actually wouldn't be used for anything.
We are talking about Metallica's first music video, One. Get ready for some literary and film history in this video.
Oh, please, God, wake me.
In the past 6 years, Metallica have gone from cult status to become one of the most prominent heavy metal bands in the world.
What's weird about Metallica's first music video is just that. It's their first music video. 8 years into their career and never making a video during the height of MTV is a bit odd. But this was due to Metallica being opposed to making videos.
Also, they made a promotional video for One, ending their stance against doing that.
Even being critical of MTV. As drummer Lars Ulrich explained about what made them finally make a video.
We just tried to, in America they have some very, set ways about how everything goes on in the business, and we didn't want to be in a situation where we were sort of forced into doing a video just because everyone else was doing them and so forth. So we just kind of held off till the right idea came along, and finally the idea came along for this song, One.
In retrospect, having a video to something like Master of Puppets would have been weird to watch in between Genesis and the Fabulous Thunderbirds. By the way, you're going to hear a lot from Ulrich as he had a lot to say about this video over the years. The purpose of them making the video was primarily to get new fans into their music. While Master of Puppets was commercially successful, none of the singles got serious airplay. This would be the same for the first two singles off Injustice for All, Harvester of Sorrow and Eye of the Beholder. With the former being about a guy murdering his family and the latter being about freedom of speech and has a really complicated composition. One definitely seemed like the most radio-friendly, even while it's about a severely wounded soldier still alive after stepping on a landmine. Yeah. To truly begin discussing the music video, we have to go back a couple of decades, as this all starts with a book. Johnny Got His Gun. In 1939, Dalton Trumbo's third book, Johnny Got His Gun, was published by J.B. Lippincott. The story is centered around a soldier named Joe Bonham during World War I. He is confined in a hospital bed after a mortar shell hits him. He is left armless, legless, and most of his face blown off.
Not my other arm, too! No, please, no! You've already taken one of my arms. Don't take my other one, too.
Room you can
Not
find.
both of them, please don't!
At first, he has no way of communicating with anyone. Eventually, he communicates through Morse code by tapping his head against his pillow.
It's Morse code. For what? SOS. Help.
He asks the people keeping him alive to have him be displayed and taken around the country to be shown as an example of the horrors of war.
He breathes through a tube. And whatever goes in a tube has to come out through a tube.
When that gets denied, he asks them to kill him.
He won't wait for an answer. All he says is, kill me, Kill me.
Which they also deny the request, leaving Joe to stay locked inside his body until the day he dies. For film enthusiasts, the author's name should sound familiar. The works of Dalton Trumbo have been seen as some of the greatest written for cinema. Most notable is writing the script for Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus. But he also won 2 Oscars for Best Story for Roman Holiday and The Brave One. He wrote these by having someone fronting him or with a pseudonym. This was due to him being part of the Hollywood blacklist due to his communist beliefs.
One of the Hollywood 10, a top screenwriter who served a year in prison for contempt of Congress.
If you want to know more about Trumbo, I would highly recommend watching 2015's Trumbo starring Bryan Cranston. The reason I bring up Trumbo's film credits is because in 1971, he directed the film adaptation for Johnny Got His Gun. It stars the likes of Timothy Bottoms as the doomed Joe Bonham, and even had Donald Sutherland playing the role of Christ.
The funny thing, I can do almost everything but hit a 12. 12 shouldn't be any harder to hit than a 13, should it?
And it is the film itself that is so important for the music video, as throughout, clips of the movie are played.
When it comes my turn, will you want me to go?
For democracy.
The theme of the song One is particularly bleak. How did that one come about?
The concept of the video first came to fruition in October 1988, during Metallica's Damaged Justice tour taking place in Paris. Metallica's managers at the time, Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mensch, came up with the idea to interlay scenes from Trumbo's film into the video. It may not be surprising to learn that James Hetfield was inspired by Johnny Got His Gun while writing the lyrics.
I have 2 older half-brothers, and they were in college, and I was a young kid, and this was, I guess, mid-70s, and he told me about this book he was reading, or a movie that he had seen, maybe the book as well. So when I was writing the song, obviously reading the book, he couldn't speak for himself, so I put a voice to him.
In fact, he felt some connection to the fear of being trapped like the Soldier Joe.
Like a prisoner in his own body, and I related to that because I felt that. Not that I couldn't speak or hear or use my limbs, but for some reason I connected with that, like being stuck in your own skin and how uncomfortable that can feel, and that would be like the ultimate hell.
The band was shown the film to see if they were interested, and after the members watched the movie, they were all for it.
I think somewhere along the lines of watching the movie and so forth, somewhere a few ideas were just born that maybe here was actually sort of the foundation of something that could possibly turn into some sort of very weird and very different, promotional video than what other bands had done.
And so, being inspired to finally make a music video, they prepared production. One of the first things they did was buy the rights to use Johnny Got His Gun for the video. Now, Metallica owning the rights to Johnny Got His Gun is a famous aspect about the music video. As the story goes, instead of wanting to pay royalty fees for the film to show the music video, they straight up bought the film rights altogether as it was more cost effective. Any band owning film rights is a good conversation to have, but it's easy to assume that it's far-fetched. But consider the fact that the movie was a commercial failure on release. Producer Bruce Campbell, who happened to be married to one of Dalton Trumbo's daughters when producing the film, threatened to sue the distributor, Cinemation Industries, for mishandling the film's advertising and the failure to promote it for Academy Award consideration, among other issues. Campbell himself ended up being sued by 25 members of the picture's production staff in a class action lawsuit, along with others named. They asked for $500,000 in punitive damages. The film's failure had Campbell be forced to declare bankruptcy. Trumbo was also said to have faced financial ruin as he also invested in the project. Despite the bankruptcy, Campbell managed to buy the film rights to the tune of $2,500. An LA Times article from 1978 quoted him saying he had been screening it weekly for the past 7 years. He continued screening it well on afterwards, with a 1980 Hollywood Reporter article quoting him saying he wanted to make it a cult event. The tour ended up being unsuccessful, and Campbell ended it before any legal action was brought upon him. He later died in 1996. This was Campbell's only film he ever produced. So I would not be surprised if 9 years later, Campbell got contacted by the managers of Metallica with an offer to buy his movie. It would either be that or repeatedly pay royalty fees when showing the video. Outright buying the movie is a more sensible investment. While the exact number has never been revealed, it's safe to assume that Campbell got more than $2,500 out of the deal. One does something interesting that I don't see other music videos like it do. What I mean is, when a music video tying to a movie gets made, you see clips of the movie throughout, but are so out of place because of how, usually, the song wasn't made for the movie. Like Kiss from a Rose by Seal. Great song. But when you watch the video, you remember, oh yeah, this was from the Batman Forever soundtrack. Kiss from a Rose was not made for Batman. Neither was One for Johnny Got His Gun. One is using a then 17-year-old movie for its video. A rather obscure one at that. And yet, despite there being so much time between the two works, it being so similar to the lyrics of the song makes its inclusion make absolute sense. When it comes to who directed the video, it is seen as a dual effort between Bill Pope and Michael Salomon. And that is true, technically. Bill Pope was the cinematographer for the video. The scenes of the band performing One was shot with a small budget on December 6, 1988 in a warehouse while Metallica were preparing for their shows in Long Beach during their Damaged Justice tour.
We basically wanted to show us playing the song in almost like a sort of rehearsal kind of jamming situation, just playing to each other like we do when we rehearse and so forth, and wanted it very, very low lit, you know, very sort of just mellow kind of thing.
Lars Ulrich remembers them performing the song 20 times in the warehouse. As for Salomon, he was only on set for a few hours during the shoot, mentioning only having a 10-minute conversation with Pope and never seeing him again. Salomon's main contribution to the music video was being the editor. Originally director and longtime Metallica fan, Wayne Isham was chosen to direct the video, but, as he put it, choked when it came to combining footage of Pope's shoot with Trumbo's film. To be fair, the movie is 111 minutes long, and the music video, while having a longer than usual duration, clocks in at 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The band later turned to Salomon, who at that point only worked for hair metal and country music. He also happened to be editor for some of Isham's work, including Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer. While Salomon wasn't completely sure how he got the job, Lars Ulrich told Pitchfork that his few directing credits was what got him the gig. The editing process was much more difficult than one would believe it to be. Not only did Salomon need to find the best clips of the movie to convey the story, half of the video still had to be the band themselves performing One. So altogether, that's less than 4 minutes of a near 2-hour movie to come through to properly get the gist of Johnny Got His Gun. Another issue Salomon had to tackle was the movie itself. As it turned out, no existing print of the movie was available in the United States. Let me repeat that. An American movie with no existing print to be found in its own country. I'm gonna go on a brief tangent here, because it's obvious this film was mistreated. The lack of care for this picture caused the film to bomb and the film being sold off for cheap. There was a federal suit that had the IRS trying to figure out if the investors only put money into the project as a tax shelter. That is really messed up. This was an award-winning movie, winning the 1971 Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival. An award considered the festival's second most prestigious after the Palme d'Or. It's so sad that this movie was so forgotten and so mistreated for both distribution mishandling and possibly Trumbo's political beliefs. Like a cry of help was needed to get this movie some respect.
SOS, help me. SOS, help me.
So, what they had to work with was a VHS copy all the way from Italy that thankfully had no Italian subtitles on it.
And it's enjoyed, a very strong cult following since then, but it wasn't even very easy to find on videotape now.
And while it is of low quality, Salomon pulled off a feat that Isham could not figure out. Absolute credit to Bill Pope's cinematography in directing the band in the video, but Salomon managed to make the film and song fit together like a two-piece puzzle. They were meant to be together. It's the editing that makes the music video work absolutely well, especially having the film dialogue in between Hetfield's verses.
Don't you remember when you were little? How you and Bill Harper would bring a wire between the two houses so you could telegraph to each other?
It sets up the story so well. However, Ulrich was none too happy about this creative decision at first. After seeing Salomon's first cut, he called the editor and said, "What the f*** are you doing to our song? You covered up all the solos, you covered up all the drum parts, you filled up every f***ing moment with dialogue." Salomon had to explain to the drummer that he was trying to incorporate the story of the movie as well as the inner speech of the main character.
And chopped off everything. Oh God, please make them hear me.
Eventually, after more edits were made, a final cut was approved by Metallica. It was good news all around, as the dialogue was still prominent.
He's the product of your profession, not mine.
After seeing the final cut, Laura's concluded, "We felt we had something special on our hands. It meant something. I see it as something that accompanies the song and furthers what's it all about." But even while Salmon managed to make the music video the band wanted, he still ended up making 3 music videos, the other 2 being shorter than the original 7-minute long. The second music video shortened down the clips of the video they believed MTV's standards and practices would not like and may reject.
It has a dignity all its own.
This version was not well liked by Metallica.
Neither me nor any of the other guys in the band really think much of that short version, mainly because I don't think that the storyline really comes across as well in the 5.5-minute short version as it does in the long proper version.
The other, titled the Jammin' version, had none of the clips from Johnny Got His Gun and just had the band Metallica performing. As someone put it, keep in mind that no one thought that anyone was ever going to play any of this. This is a band that nobody knows. They had a huge cult following, but they had no airplay. They were just these unknown guys that had rabid fans. Metallica was gambling on a form of media that they had never done before, using one of the most bleak movies as visual aid for their music. So it came as a surprise that MTV approved of the original music video for air. And while yes, the music video was depressing, it ended up not being too shocking for the channel to ask for cuts. Now came the next obstacle to tackle: MTV and their audience. It's January 30th, 1990. Metallica is watching MTV in some no-name hotel in Texas while on their day off from touring. 3 months after their initial conversation of doing a music video, one had made its debut onto the channel on the 22nd. The program they're watching is Dial MTV, a video countdown show where audience members call in a 1-800 number to vote for their most requested video of the day. Consider this the early version of Total Request Live. And this episode of Dial MTV is where one has been eligible to get on the show. And as the band watch the program, they are pissed. They don't see the video play on the bottom tiers. Interestingly, the band had garnered backlash from some fans because of the idea of even making a music video. They believed they did not make an impact on the channel. They believed they failed. But then a thought came to them. If they were not appearing at the bottom, they must be higher on the list. And sure enough, they were right. One had reached number 1. After hitting it big on Dial MTV, the video was added to the channel's rotation, later becoming the most requested video of February 1989. It's also one of the most popular music videos in the channel's history. The full-length and jamming versions of One were later sold in 1989 on VHS and on Laserdisc. For MTV's VMAs that year, it was nominated for the first ever Best Heavy Metal Video, but lost to Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses.
So here to perform the song One from the Grammy-nominated album And Justice for All, Metallica!
The band would later win Best Heavy Metal Performance at the Grammys, an award that Metallica has won 6 times for. Retrospectively, it ranks high on lists of the best music videos of all time. And while having accolades are always great, an important effect the video had was it yielded great commercial success for Metallica. One became the band's first single to hit the top 40 charts in the Hot 100. While it only peaked at 35, this laid the groundwork for Metallica to not only enter the mainstream consciousness, but become one of the best-selling musical acts of all time. When their 5th album, the self-titled Metallica album, also known as the Black Album, was released in 1991, their opening track and lead single was a critical and commercial success, peaking at number 16 on the Hot 100. Their lead single hitting the top 20, combined with the Black Album debuting at number 1 in 10 countries, including the United States, propelled the band to massive success for decades to come. Every album from the Black Album onward has peaked at number 1 on the charts in the United States and numerous other countries. And as of 2018, they have sold over 125 albums worldwide. And with an 11th album in the works, there is nothing to slow down the band. And after Saint Anger and Lulu, I don't think anything will. Before I end this video, I want to talk about Johnny Got His Gun one more time. To get the full context of the movie itself, I bought it on DVD. And it's definitely a depressing movie to witness.
I don't know whether I'm alive and dreaming or dead and remembering.
Not a negative crack on the movie, but it makes you feel drained when thinking about it. I'm basically giving it a recommendation saying that. But about the DVD itself, it includes the original One music video and its special features. Without the brilliant idea of incorporating the movie into their music video, the movie would never have achieved its cult status the way it does now, being left to fade in obscurity on old VHS tapes outside its home country. I don't even think a DVD print would have been possible without any interest gained from Metallica's video. And now, these two works of media are intertwined and forever associated with one another and reaping the reward they both deserve. Bruce Campbell's dream of making it a cult event came true in 1989. An absolute success story, if there ever was one. Thanks for your time.
Keep the home fires burning.